everyone, welcome to Two Car Pros. My name is Ryan and today I'm going to be showing you how to replace a fuel filter in a 2000 Yukon XL. This also applies to Chevrolet Tahoe, Chevrolet Suburbans, regular Yukons, Silverados, Sierras, and I'm pretty sure the Express van as well. The location we're going to be working today is basically right underneath the driver's seat on the inside frame rail. It is pretty easy to find. Before we get started, I also want to say a lot of people like to relieve the fuel pressure using the fuel pressure test port and like a Schrader valve tool. I don't really like doing that stuff. I think it's kind of a waste of time. As soon as you take the line off of the fuel filter, the pressure is going to be released. Just wear some eye protection, get a catch pan ready, maybe have a shop towel handy. It's not a ton of pressure because the pump isn't on. So whatever fuel pressure is in there gets relieved and it doesn't get replaced or anything. And it's also kind of nice too because the pressure will help the line come off a little bit. It's a little bit, not like a crazy amount because there's not a ton of pressure due to the pump not being on. There's a little bit of pressure though, so be careful and wear eye protection. The other thing before we get started is you're going to need to disconnect the negative terminal off of your battery using an 8mm wrench. With all that out of the way, let's don some eye protection and get started. All right, so on our fuel filter here, the fuel filter size is 21mm. But on the flare nut side, we're going to use a 16mm flare nut wrench. And make sure you use a flare nut wrench because you don't want to round that flare nut. You're in a whole heap of trouble if you do that. So we're going to break this loose. And I know a lot of people always say, how do you let the fuel pressure out? Well, if you take the fitting off, the fuel pressure is coming out. Just make sure you have a catch basin ready and you're wearing eye protection. So with the wrenches in place, we can go ahead and break this loose. Just like that. Not on too hard or anything. There we go. So once you're at this stage, you can remove this line, kind of bend it out of the way there, and the gas is going to come out. You can just even let it dribble like this until the pressure is relieved. So if you come up and over here, you can see that this fuel line that attaches to the front of the filter snakes around and goes into this flexible piece here. This is actually the linchpin and the line you should remove first. Remove this line first. It's just impossible to show you how on film, but it comes off the exact same way as the other one does. So when we put it back together, what we're going to do is put this connector on first and then the front one. Be a lot easier that way. So in order to remove this, we're going to basically do this and push the filter forward. Now we can remove our fuel filter here just by sliding it towards the front of the truck. Just like that. It's gonna have fuel in it, so dump that out into your catch pan. Go ahead and remove that bad boy. Before we go over to the workbench, let's talk about these O-rings here. It's a very tight shot on our O-rings that make the seal from the fuel line into the fuel filter. If this O-ring is compromised, or if your new fuel filter comes with new O-rings, go ahead and install them. Ours look perfect though, so I'm just gonna leave them, but it's a good idea to replace these, especially if they are cracked and ruined, or if it's leaking from here. This is your culprit 9 times out of 10. So do that for both lines. So this is our fuel filter here. It's pretty dingy. It is the original one. You can even see here, flow tells you which way to put it back in. Check out our new one, Bosch F0119. Always use quality parts, link down below in the description. And we're going to take a look at this. Even on here it says 12 foot-pounds, low torque spec, and there's really no way to get a torque spec on a flare nut wrench anyway, so just snug's good. And then you want to check the flow arrow. Flow is going this way, so it goes in just like this. So exactly the way our other one in, because you can put it in backward, and you'll get low fuel pressure, and it's just overall not good. You want this way, you want the flow to go that way, so it's ready for install. So we can go ahead and install our new fuel filter, making sure that the flow arrow is pointed to the front of the truck. We can just slide this bad boy in, just like that. Absolutely perfect. What you can do too is on this O-ring that goes into the filter, you can put a little grease on there or a tiny amount of motor oil, but there is some gasoline on there, so it's not like it's going on. Never put on O-rings dry. Always make sure they have some form of lubrication. There we go, that looks pretty good. Make sure that's installed, there we go. We can feed this flare nut in by hand. Replace our front line here on the filter. Make sure that's going to its proper home and isn't spin this flare nut on by hand there. And we can grab our wrenches and snug it up. So again, holding our filter with the 21. Then tightening our flare nut with the 16. There we go. Front side is nice and snug. All right, and then we can do second verse, same as the first. Put our wrenches on and snug this flare nut on home. There we go. Nice and snug, and our fuel filter is installed. So that's how to replace your fuel filter in a 2000 Yukon XL. It also applies to all those vehicles I mentioned earlier. This GM used this platform for a large amount of years, and it covers a lot of different trucks. The only thing you might want to do as far as the fuel filter goes is maybe go to rockauto.com and type your VIN in so you get the exact fuel filter you need. I'm pretty sure, I'm like 90% sure they all use the exact same filter, but maybe they changed them a mid-year refresh somewhere along the way. So just double check and make sure you're getting the correct fuel filter. I have left the link down below to the exact fuel filter I use. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any future content that's coming very soon. We are getting this close to getting our big block project started, along with a boatload of automotive repairs. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.